for a minute after, and we welcome you here to today's meeting of the Kentucky Regional Planning Development Board of Directors. I'm David Vogel. I'd like to welcome all of you here. So first thing we'll do today is ask our Executive Director to call the roll.
Thank you, Judge. Honorable John Black. Honorable Bernard Bowling. Here. Honorable John Logan Brent. Honorable Sean Crothers.
Here.
Honorable Byron Chapman. Honorable Beverly Chester Burton. Honorable Jack Kaufman.
Here.
Honorable Bill Dira. Here. Mr. Brian Dixon. Honorable David Eaton. Mr. Kevin Beatty.
Here.
Ms. Lena Muldoon for the Honorable Greg Fisher.
Here.
Honorable Jeff Gahan. Mr. Keith Griffey.
Here.
Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges. Honorable Dan Eisen. Here. Mr. Andy Kraus for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable Todd Pollock. Here. Honorable John Riley.
Here.
Honorable Joe Robinson. Honorable Jerry Summers. Here. Honorable Jim Travis. And the Honorable David Vogel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, having a quorum here, this meeting is now in session. Thank you. Judge Summers just making it in the door here. About 12 seconds for his name is called.
That's okay.
That's good. Good time. All right. We'll call on our Secretary Treasurer, Mr. Bowling. For minutes.
Everyone received a copy of the minutes. Are there any changes or corrections?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes, any opposed? Minutes approved. All right, Mr. Pope, financial report.
Thank you. In your binder, agenda item number 5, it starts on page 34, is the January financial report. The first page is always the summary of work elements. This is compared to the budget that's currently in place for the revision later. See, the work element summary, each division is within, we're 58.3% through the year right now, and they're well within that. We're in the budget and balance of the year. Following that summary is the agency line item revenues and expenditures, and again, there's some adjustments to that. Expenses later. And that last part is the balance sheet. And it shows where that is.
All right, questions? Seeing no questions.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved. Second. Need a motion. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Show that John Logan Brent from Henry County is right.
And also Mayor David Eaton from Shelbyville is also joining us.
Today, we're happy to have from the Kentuckiana Better Transportation Organization, Executive Director Jennifer Kirchner. Jennifer, wave your hand. You're on the screen. There you are. Right-hand corner of our screen. And we welcome you here today to give us a report on the Kentuckians for Better Transportation.
Just say KBT. It's a mouthful and everybody knows it's KBT, it turns out. So trying to executive director for Kentucky, it's a very long, but thank you guys for having me here today. I had planned to come in person, but being new in my role, I'm still not great at judging where I have to be and when I have to be there. It turns out I need to be at the Capitol this morning. So thank goodness for Zoom. I'm grateful that I can still join you. I was listening in on the transportation meeting, and it reminded me of how much I have to learn, and also how much I appreciate you folks for doing the work that you do. At KBT, we're here to amplify your message, but it's my opinion that our organization can't be effective without understanding what you guys do and have an open line of communication. You all do such a great job of collecting community needs and know what's best. So getting a message from you and having us be able to amplify it or carry it with us, I think would make us really good partners. And I just wanted to commit that to you. A little bit about myself. I've been here at KBT. It was a year in December. Before I came to KBT, I was in economic development and tourism in Danville and Boyle County. And in a previous life before that, I actually was in research science and worked at biomedical companies, research companies. So I moved here about 12 years ago with my husband, who's a professor at UK. I've got 3 little ones, so we're here to stay. I have now, transitioned a job to Frankfurt, but we still live here in Danville. Love this small town. So I'm very close with our bluegrass ad. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you for being here, or let me be here as I'd mentioned. One of the things that we're, going into session this year saying we need a gas tax is not the wisest thing to do. So we've really been trying to listen to what the needs are and emphasize the idea that if you want to solve problems for Kentucky, whether it be quality of life or economically, you have to address transportation issues. They're fundamental to every problem that we have, every bit of growth that we want to do. So we're really up there pushing forward that, as these funds come in and there are choices for our state legislators to make about where the money goes, that they're funding the transportation projects that are most needed. What KBT does that, and I'm sure some of you are more familiar with KBT at this point even than I am, but really one of the things that I think is very special about KBT is that we're a multimodal organization. So simply put, there is no one mode of transit that can complete an economy or a neighborhood even, and everywhere in between. So we really believe that a holistic approach to transportation is what's needed, and that requires all of the modes. And I often like to say too, I think sometimes in transportation we forget about the people part. It's all about the people, moving the people or having the people decide where to go. So we're really addressing or increasing our interests in pedestrian issues and safety issues as well, because that's such a growing part of Kentucky. I don't know if some of you saw last week, there was some data released. Let me see, I had the title pulled up here. The TRIP, which is a national transportation research nonprofit out of DC. They did some research for us. They do every couple of years. And one of the headlines that they released was Louisville area motorists lose nearly $1,900 per year driving on roads that are rough, congested, and lack some desirable safety features. And what we ended up doing was working kind of in all corners of the state. There was an assessment done for Lexington and Bowling Green. And, while I firmly believe you can make numbers do what you want, it's a compelling way for people to understand, your life is intimately involved with transportation every day. And the more effective and efficient we are about it, not only does it save you money, it saves you time. So we've had a pretty busy week or so trying to share that message. We had a really great amount of media coverage and whatnot. So again, we're looking for, input on what's really happening and what's going right and what's going wrong. And then how can we bring that to the legislators? The TRIP data honestly came back and confirmed everything we know, that, we have been deficient in raising transportation revenue funding. It's been flat for years. So really what we believe is true is that between the budget surplus and the IIJA funding, really we're just back to where we should be. So when we are having conversations with the transportation cabinet, we're asking, what's next? Where is your innovation? What are you looking at? I know we're moving forward on EVs, but quite frankly, we've waited so long to pass a gas tax that we've even surpassed the need for that. And we need to be embracing, how are we going to assess user fees for electric vehicles, people who pass through our state. So the message is, now is the time where we have finally made up some ground. So how can we get ahead? I think when you look at logistics, this is probably the easiest example. It's a gift, our geographical location. And with the electrification of transportation happening across all modes, I think we're really geographically located. If we're deliberate about investment that we could capitalize, we already see the exponential growth in places like CVG, you know, or UPS, even in your guys' neck of the woods. So there's very favorable conversation, obviously, about building a companion bridge for the Brent Spence. I think it's about 6% of the national GDP passes over that bridge. So I think by all accounts that you're going to see that funded, that the Mountain Parkway and I-69. So we're happy about that, but still we're not addressing our mechanisms of funding are not sustainable and they're antiquated. So our message still is, you can't build something now and then not plan how to care for it or use it in the future. So we're really looking for sustainable funding, especially in some of the other modes. So you'll see, like with general aviation, they keep getting these 10 millions allocated, which is great, but it's still something they don't know about. So as you know, without dedicated funds, you know, planning can be difficult. So we see it not just in roads and bridges, but across all the modes, that there's some stability that's needed. One, I was taking note that in a lot of your work, TARC is a really big partner of yours, and Carrie Butler is a board member of ours, and I feel like I've been drinking from a fire hose a little bit, but wow, what an impressive organization TARC is, as well as TANK up in Northern Kentucky. So I'm still learning, and I appreciate how much information I got from you guys just from reading your minutes about that. So thank you. So I guess all of that is to say that really we're focusing on, we're waiting to hear about tax reform right now. There's potential that maybe some of the gas tax, could that be rolled in there? Maybe it won't. They're taking care of a lot of the things right now. And we're just waiting for, as you guys were talking about earlier, it's kind of a domino effect. You know, you're still waiting for legislation to come down to talk about how the IIJ funds are dispersed and can be used. So I feel like we're just kind of lying in wait to see what happens there and how we can be of assistance to advocate for transportation projects. One last thing that I wanted to mention, and then I'd like to hear a little bit from you guys, or if you have any questions for me. One thing that I mentioned this briefly just a minute ago, we're increasing our involvement in, I'm open to terminology, but it seems like it's best categorized as active mobility. And so we have a safety committee. We have six committees at KBT for the modes, and we're talking about combining or growing our safety committee to encompass pedestrian issues, you know, even scooters, all different ways that we're inventing of getting around. I've heard it called active transportation. So we're working with our safety committee to grow what they're concerned with and what kind of people we have involved. So through that committee, I definitely would like to come back around and reconnect with the work you folks are doing it from a safety perspective, if there's many areas, but safety for sure. So that's a little bit about KBT. I could go on and it's easy for me to do on Zoom because I can't see really anybody's body language, like, oh, she should stop now. So I'm happy. I really, you know, one of the things that I enjoy too about meeting new people in these experiences is that KBT has a very good long history. And over the past couple of years, we've had some turnover in directors. I'm here to stay, whether they like it or not. But it's good for me to hear about what we used to do or what the history was. So, you know, I don't want to start over. I would like to take what we've done and what we've been good at and improve on it and grow that. So if there's anything you think that, you know, I always say, I don't know what I don't know. So if there's anything that would be useful for you to share with me, I welcome that too. Like I said, I'm still learning. But I think that's about it. I'll stop there.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Let's see, does anybody in the room here or on Zoom have any questions they can direct to Jennifer?
Jennifer, I'll make 2 comments. I was with Sal yesterday and the road fund reformulation is not dead.
Okay.
I was actually one part of the product that wrote that 3 years ago. We were locked in a room, and wrote that bill. It is not,
That's great.
it is not dead, but it is the electric part. Is the thing that everybody looks for in the future. That's what kills it in the Senate. I don't have to tell you who the person in the Senate that kills it, but the conversation I had with that person was, we need the money now, and we'll adjust for later for electric. So that's in that part. The other part, I was with the speaker, and he has they have additional funds coming in the budget for roads and another 45 million for cities. I assume you're probably aware of what they're.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great news. There's also one other, oh gosh, I want to say it's House Bill. I've got it around here somewhere on my notes. I'll have to check. But what it is, it's the transportation. It's like a TIF district, but that you can use locally. I would imagine that this would be really helpful if passed in your area. It basically allows local municipalities to kind of bind together and form, you'd be able to use bonds and have money and borrowing capability through tax incentive districts. So it's kind of another tool. Yeah, that's Sal and Judge Moore.
Allowing you to do a transportation TIF in
Yes.
your area, which is innovative to it.
Yeah.
You can partner with counties, you can partner with other cities and do a road project in transportation. It's not out there yet, but Sal will be pushing that in addition to that you can join forces and do a TIF district in that area. So it's a lot of times for development. If you're going to do a commercial development, make the commercial people in that area help pay for the roads through a TIF, is what he's proposing. It's something we don't have to do constitutionally adjust for in order to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of, you know, we know the gas tax is the brass ring, but there's other things we can do to be creative to get some of, you know, projects that are backlogged, or, you know, communities that have the capabilities to pull together in a unified way. I mean, let's let them do it. Any way you can chip away at it. But yeah, other than that, the bills are just kind of lying in wait, and I'm sure we'll like 241. There's a couple of them. We're just waiting to see how it goes. But I'm optimistic. I don't know. If I was a betting person, I don't know what I'd say about the gas tax at this point. There's a lot of states that are actually talking about repealing it. And fortunately, or not repealing it, I shouldn't say, but putting it in some sort of reduction mode temporarily or whatnot. And I'm happy to say there's not conversation about that in Kentucky. Thank goodness. But that's a little concerning too. I guess they're picking on the sales tax in Kentucky, not the gas tax, which in my line of work, that's a good thing. So yes, thank you for that.
Any other comments or questions here? All right, Jennifer, don't see any. Thank you for being with us today and bringing us
Sure.
up on the Kentuckians for better transportation.
That's great.
Good
Thank you,
luck.
folks.
All right, appreciate it. Next time we'll see you in person.
Yes, you will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is report from Andy on transportation policies.
Thank you very much, Judge. The TPC Transportation Policy Committee met at 12:30 this afternoon in this room, immediately preceding our meeting here. A couple of highlights, 4 or 5 things I'll highlight on that agenda was the update of our MPO's public participation plan. That's the document that we're required to have as an MPO that says things like when we do amendments, when we do these things called administrative modifications of our planning documents, how long we have to have in the library, how long we have to leave out for public comment. One of the notable things on the change that we made to this new one is it's reflective of this hybrid meeting style that we have right here. So that was a big change. We just updated that a couple years ago, but we knew we needed to we'd be meeting via Zoom as often as we do. Another thing on the agenda was Nick Vale. He presented Amendment 6 of our long-range plan and TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. That's a shorter range document than TIP has. Several projects needed to be amended to those two documents there. That passed. Nick also spoke about our dedicated funding programs. In Indiana, it's very much a use it or lose it program. That is for the pots of money that come to this region. We've got to spend every dime each year, otherwise it goes back to Indianapolis. On the Kentucky side, that's not necessarily the case. On the Kentucky side, we carry it over, and quite frankly, we've got too large of carryover balance, but we're allowed to carry it over. We've got carryover balance in Kentucky. In Indiana, that's not the case. And so a project over across Silver Creek that connects Clark and Floyd counties, that project got delayed due to some archaeological or historic preservation office delayed that a little bit. And so that created a ripple effect, as Nick says. And so we had to move some funding around. We had to move it around quick. And so we changed some funding around. We're going to do a couple to buy some park vehicles and to do a couple of planning studies. So that was our best option. We had to scramble to get those much dollars spent. Otherwise, they leave the region. So it was in everybody's interest to get those spent locally. We had a contingent of Federal Highways Administration Kentucky Division staff in the room to discuss an update on their activities there in Frankfurt, but also to give us a little bit of an update of the IIJA or the bill, bipartisan infrastructure law. That's the new transportation bill. So Bode Boris from Federal Highway, she gave a presentation on that. It was a good question and answer on that. You think there's all these questions in Frankfurt. There's even more questions, certainly, with this new highway bill, the new transportation bill. There's a lot of grants. So traditionally, a lot of it's formula based. This time around, it's discretionary grants. And so everybody's going to be, once they put out the guidance, and as Bode mentioned, not all the guidance is out there yet. And there's several questions that she didn't have answers for, and we don't have answers for either. But it is interesting to note that we do expect, I think I mentioned last month, a significant influx in our project funding, both in Indiana and Kentucky, through those funding pots that I mentioned earlier, but also in the amount of dollars that we'll have to do our planning activities. There's going to be a nice little bump to tune of 12 to maybe even 20% on the planning dollars. Last but not least, Jeremy Shaw, who you all get the chance to meet soon. If you haven't met him already, he's our newest transportation planner. Jeremy gave an update, as we always do at this time of year, on our crash data, technically the Federal Highways Administration series of performance measures. He gave an update and gave a recap of last year's crash data and the new targets and baselines that we're required to set annually as the NPO opt into that program. So there's a few other items, but
the Federal Highway people are very impressed with the reporting.
They were. So that's something that the KIPDA NPO, I'll say opted into several years ago. The Transportation Performance Measure Program, Management Program. A lot of the other NPOs have opted, taken their option to do what they call support the state's targets. There's no question that's the easy way up, okay? But with us being a bi-state NPO, and for that matter being let's call it the urban island in two rural states, it never made sense for us to follow their leads on all of those. So we opted in years ago, and now we're stuck with it. So now we present it every year, and we did get some kudos, and I was very thankful that they mentioned that because a lot of regions just said, I'm going to support the state's targets. A lot of regions only deal in one state, by the way, too. And so it's a little bit easier of a thing to do or consideration to make. And so we were very appreciative of those comments. So happy to answer any other questions, but please.
All right, the actions requested here is your motion to approve any motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're going to get a report on business items from the Division of Social Services. We have Lynn here and Jessica.
And this is their report. If you refer to page 43 in your handouts, you'll see what they're going to be speaking about.
As many of you know, because we have to present our procurement list to you ahead of time. Sorry, I don't know that too well. But we have two procurements that happened this year, both related to our Title III C, the meals program. We divide them into the meal preparation or caterers. And then the other one is our meal delivery resources, which are local providers who then distribute the meals, specifically home delivered meals and the congregate site meals. Well, we've been able to finish part of that before I retire, but the one that we're presenting today is our meal preparation services. We still have to present it to our advisory council, but the funding committee of the advisory council has approved this and wanted us to present this for your approval as well today. So we wanted to give you some information on that. We had 3 applicants, one of them, the evaluators and the advisory council funding committee deemed not completely viable, and so they eliminated them because they would not commit to a 3-year rate and contract. They also would not commit to providing our congregate meals and or shelf stable meals. So just wanted you to be aware of that. But the 2 that we want to propose to continue on, we have current contracts with them. They've been excellent as far as providing services. So the 2 agencies that we would like to present for our meal services, meal preparation services, is Jewish Community Louisville for the kosher meals and Masterson's for the congregate and home delivered meal services. A couple things that we want to note to you all is that on this sheet in the far right column, I have included what their percentage increases were from this year to the next contract period, which we think are beyond reasonable. And the last section where it says new, we added a feature to this RFP, not to eliminate, but to supplement home delivered meal services. We've run into some issues from our current other outside community providers where they either don't have a route assigned that would include that an individual, or they have lost drivers or volunteers. And so we're just trying to make sure that more people in our communities are also served home delivered meals when they need them. And so these 2 meal providers have both agreed that they can add that service as a supplement to our meal delivery providers. So again, we're not eliminating them, we're supplementing that service. So we will continue to engage our meal delivery providers in the way that we have in the past. And we're working forward with them in trying to figure out what this looks like. A couple things that changed. I think Jessica's going to tell you more about Masterson's has a very innovative plan for how to deliver hot meals to the congregate sites and what we're going to be doing with the home delivered. But a couple of things that have changed over COVID, and we've realized that not just us, but across the state, that this is an effective tool, but we deliver either chilled or frozen meals in 5-pack. In the past, it was hot meals delivered from a congregate site to our home delivered meal clients every day. And so it had to be, it had to be temperature controlled. It had to have somebody available all the time. And that just disappeared during COVID. So volunteers disappeared. We can't get them back. We can't get drivers back. We're having all kinds of issues. So we're sticking with, and we've been approved to continue with these frozen or chilled 5-pack meals to go once a week to our home delivered meal clients. And then I think Jessica's, let me get the vote first. And you tell us, is that right? If we do the vote?
What are we voting on exactly?
We need you to approve that these 2 providers can receive the contracts for the next RFP period.
Masterson's 20% high. What did they do for this?
It's about 20%. Yeah,
So the
Masterson's.
difference between 547 and 635.
Jewish only does a small area. All of their congregate is right there on their site. Masterson's has to deliver to all of our congregate sites. Also for the home delivered meals, Jewish will only go 15 miles from their preparation site. So it does look a little bit different.
Those are our kosher meals.
Right, just kosher meals.
So it's different.
Yes, it's a different
Yes.
meal.
Yes.
I know there has been drastic change. Is the feedback good?
We have not had any negative feedback.
frozen
on the frozen meals.
versus the hot meal.
Right. We've had a couple of comments on the chilled meals at the congregate sites, but, as she's gonna explain to you, that will change. Part of the issue is that our congregate sites or senior centers that do some of the congregate delivery are not open consistently right now, so we're having to figure all that out. But in this contract period, we have a plan for providing hot meals at the congregate site.
Right, we'll see.
At the senior centers, and we have others that are meal distribution points in
And Masterson's is still, if we can ever get back over to Masterson's is for. They'll have a contract, the site, they'll have a contract for the congregate meals as well as the frozen.
Yes.
correct, for the meals themselves. And this is consistent with what we've done for, I don't know how many years, have a caterer who does this. Okay, but there's just a difference in how we're going to provide hot meals, but that will go back and.
So I'm a step by step for y'all know, so here we go. Thank you for asking questions. So as Lynn just explained, it is going to look a little different, but it's also kind of the same with what we've been doing over the pandemic as far as home delivered meal clients. So Masterson's will produce those frozen meals for our home delivery meal clients. They will take them to the congregate sites for distribution from that staff. We are still working on that part of the RFP. That will be the second presentation that you all will see soon. Right now, we're just talking about the meal itself and how to get it to where it goes out. So those will remain frozen. A point to your question, though, we did consider if a person in the community either cannot handle the frozen meal, they can't eat it, they can't prepare it, et cetera, so forth, we will work with those providers to find a way to get them a hot meal. As Lynn said, we have not received negative feedback. In fact, we've received some positive feedback. These frozen meals allow people to not have to be home at the same time every day. They don't have to manage their doctor's appointments around it. I don't know about y'all, but I like to eat. I like to eat. So it allows them to be able to heat that meal and eat it when they choose. They also have 5 meals in front of them. If they choose to eat what would have been Thursday's meal, on Mondays they can. So as always, we are serving people in the community. There will be variance of that with each individual person. And we get that. And we considered that, figured out ways to work around it. So
This is a microwave meal or a one you put in the oven?
they can go, the frozen ones can go in the oven, they can go in the microwave, yes. Yeah, they can.
And the other option.
Yes.
I agree with the economy of scale as a county. It's cheaper, it's easier, it's more efficient.
Yeah.
I agree that we're in a pandemic, but the other part of the pandemic is the social value of a person bringing something to see something. Losing that because of this, and we may not be able to avoid that, but that is something that some of these people that are homebound like to see somebody else's.
For one, we did not get any responsive, any applications that would at this point. And I will tell you, this is a statewide thing. It's not just the KIPDA area, it's a statewide thing. And most of them are working with out of state agencies or companies that are producing these and shipping them. We're trying to take the better aspect of having a person, someone, see them at least once a week. So we're trying to keep, the mix of all
I
of
don't
those
disagree.
things.
I agree on 2 sides. Disagree on
I
one.
do
So
have-
the math comes out to 1. But yeah.
I do have a point to that. One of the things in our second piece of this RFP is that we pulled eligibility, not completely all of it, but a lot of it in-house to where we will actually be assessing these clients to find out, to your point, what is going to happen with you in this scenario? Could we then provide other services like our telephone reassurance calls? I think you all know we have, and this is not directly related to this decision, of course, but we've got additional funding out there. We're trying to bring services in the home still. So yes, we have considered, how does this affect the person? How do we make sure that we are making contacts that are needed with those individuals? It was a difficult decision to walk through, but we have to do what's best for the entire community. But our intent is not to let people feel as if they're not served and find ways to serve them.
How many meals are involved?
All together.
Let's
We
see.
walked in with that number. Lynn.
No, I did not walk in with that
Yep.
number. We provide, it's about 2,200 in home delivery, 2,200 individuals across our region who receive home delivered meals weekly. And that's an average. And right now, our congregate site numbers are low because they're, still in flux. And I think those are around 700-800 of them.
Also, so that you are aware, our home delivered meals in our home care program have been frozen, delivered once a week for a very long time, yes.
I'm ready to make the motion for you, because I know there's not a whole lot of options there, mainly. Before you step down, can you give an update on when our senior center? You just make a motion.
So you just made a motion, I'll second it, so you can keep.
I do want to make another point before y'all do that. I do want you to say, because we need your full support. So in regards to the meals that are going hot to the centers, well, they go chilled. They will be warmed up in the centers in these very interesting new ovens, which save space, equipment, time, and serving.
And
So,
temperatures.
and the temperatures are extended. It also allows for, under this scenario, a shelf life. Where formerly you would get trays of food delivered, served out, they had to be specifically portioned. The caterers are gonna take care of every single piece of that now. These meals will need to be warmed, handed out, and simply into the trash. So that staff don't have to do their portioning, we don't waste any food at the end of the day. And those particular meals, if unheated, right, they're still in the fridge, can be used the following day. So they have because there's so much to talk about in this that I want to share with you all, so forgive me if I'm a little because it is kind of exciting. And so if a person calls the center and the center then has a couple of extra meals that somebody didn't show up for, that meal is available. Same thing with the frozen boxes, where we'll have freezers for those in all centers once we work through what that looks like on the other side. And if you call a center or call us and say we need a meal, there's already one packaged out there in a box that can be taken out.
The
So,
chilled meals, there's shelf life is 5 days, and the frozen meals is up to a year.
up to 1 year. So allow us the caterer as well, Masterson's being the larger one I'm speaking to, who wishes their own entity over here, to order food when it's at lower cost, to have, when they have the staff available and produce those, so that we serve this community with the challenges that we've had. I pray we all get back to some normal somewhere, quote, quotes normal, but this is where we are today. And so I wanted you to see that full picture because, not only do we need your votes, we need your support as you're communicating with people in the community, with providers, to say, these are why we made the decisions we did, and this is how it's going to positively impact individuals and providers. Our volunteer pool is decimated, as you all know, and the struggles of staffing. But even if this pandemic was not here, this choice, I think, is a needed choice in our community. So to allow us to do more.
We've got a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other questions?
I'd just like to make one comment. We use Masterson's 5 frozen meals a day for 1 year, fed 500 seniors that were shut in each week. And we had nothing but positive feedback through the entire pandemic from March to March until that year vaccinated.
We can all vote on it. I just wanted to get an update on the senior center.
I'm gonna do that. Yes, sir.
All right, all in favor of going forward with these Masterson Jewish Community Center here, these meals, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. In regards to senior centers, we are still where we're at with senior centers. We have not received any additional guidance. Still under that social distancing restriction. I know you all and myself, I'm checking every day to see if that actually gets removed. We, and I'm speaking as to KIPDA in general, the planners, everybody, the providers. Still trying to figure out ways to utilize the staff they have. I'm not even gonna use the word volunteer because there's really not any, there really isn't, it's very low. With those restrictions still in place, all of those things play a role in decisions that the providers make on whether or not they are in the building or not, and at what capacity. Do I have enough staff here each day to have this number of clients on hand and still get meals delivered? As you all know, our 3B and 3C services are quite intertwined. At times, it's the same staff providing a B service during the day and a C service at different times. So it complicates things a little bit, but
Any senior centers open up the state of Kentucky?
they're all at various points. Yes. Yeah, are you speaking as in like full capacity, like?
With seniors there playing bingo, how's that?
Yes, there are seniors on, we have seniors on site and eating meals in some of our centers on various days. Yes.
You could advise on what you shared about cards, I know that's an issue.
Oh, yes. Okay, so, Vesselina sent out a memo to all providers about cards. This has been an interesting one in my tenure here in the director role about cards and bingo per se. It's not an actual 3B paid service, so it's not something that we have direct oversight over. However, we know that seniors play cards, and we were asked by our providers, how can we do this? So we did send out some guidance last month, I believe, on how to play cards safely. That was passed down to us from the Department for Aging and Independent Living. I think you all can all see, like, even on our tables, you can still get that 6 foot distancing. But it boils down to, hey, you could use, there's variations, I'll give you one. Use the same deck of cards so that those people are only touching those cards. Then they sanitize afterwards. That deck goes over here for 2 weeks, let it sit. Or toss it, we'll buy some cards. So we set out different things on even a barrier between that you pass cards under. It is very tricky to figure out how to play cards. We're not saying don't play cards. We are saying it's not a service that we're gonna have staff supervising, on, because it's not a 3B paid service. But we did send out guidance on how you might be able to accomplish that in the area, so.
Judge Ison always push hard to get people to sleep.
Does he? I can't comment on that.
Judge,
Yeah.
you have yours open. So is it, Jared, is it the community action agency's responsibility to open it up? Or are we not opening it up because of guidance from you all?
We provide the guidance, but ultimately it is the media action's responsibility to follow the guidance.
I would, the only thing that I would ask, I told in bunches, how we would want it. I would ask is, I will make sure that KIPDA and the community action agencies, facilities we represent are not the last ones that stay open. So when we come back next month, if it wouldn't be too much trouble,
Never is.
we can survey.
Everyone see where they're at currently.
That is exactly right.
Absolutely.
And if the majority are doing this, I think it's time.
Are you all doing it by executive order?
We received guidance from Dale, which we'll have a copy of this last.
So guidance,
Everybody's scared they're gonna get sued. That's your
Well,
question.
It's a little more layered than that from this perspective. So we have the guidance from Dale. The guidance from Dale refers to CDC guidelines. It also refers to whether a person is vaccinated or unvaccinated. Because we cannot, they cannot enforce that when you're a vaccinated or unvaccinated person. That guidance still directs social distancing, masking if they choose, that is the center's choice. And that's what's leaving us in capacity restrictions. Now, in each of those agencies, along with local officials, we all want to dig a little bit deeper in that and make a decision that presents us, and I'll shoot it right up. I sure will. Because
how about let the community action agencies and senior centers make their own call?
Well, Judge, I think we can do that, but what I was just saying is, I don't want to step all the way out there on the limb. I just wondered what they were doing across the state of Kentucky.
Well, I want to make this point first and then another one. there is an area that actually just reopened their first season center, like very recently, yeah, January.
Wide open.
But they
Not
had
wide.
district
No,
here.
nobody's like full blown. as
No,
far
the
as
first
I
time they
know,
opened their doors back.
at all. So a little bit ahead of some, and some have opened and closed, and that has always been an option, you know, for all of our centers, to close the doors and serve from the door. Because serve from the door is the hard one to understand for everybody. You do meals 5 days a week, doors open at whatever, you know, all the buildings are different, so capacity is different, depending on what you're talking about. I just want to say we continue to have that conversation every day.
So you'll
Try to get
follow
back.
different guidelines, restaurants.
We're following those Dale guidelines. I was happy to look at them with you. if you-
They are different. That's something that's been brought up in the
Yes.
discussion.
If you want a restaurant.
Exactly. No, it's something that we spoke about.
Yes, we did. And there's nothing specific in the realm as we reopen for various things, not just these services for us, but others, that addresses those centers specifically. There's adult daycare, there's nursing facilities, it's very challenging. So we want nothing more than to do exactly what our participants want, period.
I think they're ready for the doors to be open.
And they are in some areas and not in others. I mean, it is, I'm just putting that out there. It is complex depending on where you're looking at. You know, it does vary, which also makes, you know, high level decisions, even above us, you know, a little challenging. But as you all well know, thank you all for all of your service, Lord knows.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next item, I do want to just recognize, despite a lot of groveling, Monday is going to be Lynn Evans' last day. She's retiring after nearly 11 years at KIPDA. She is going to be truly missed. So thank you, Lynn. If you change your mind over the weekend, that door is still open. So thank you for everything.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the board's indulgence here to jump ahead to number 13. The report from Indiana Cabinet time commitment. Give him an opportunity to make it.
Thank you, Judge. I had a 1.5-page report, and as you can see, my chicken scratches as I've been looking at the bill updates that have been coming in. I'm now down to 4 bills to report on, so it'll be a short report. In the end, General Assembly has 3 weeks remaining in the 10-week session, and of those 3 weeks, 2 weeks are the conference committees where they work out the differences in the bills. Senate committee review deadline is today. If the bill doesn't make it out of committee by the end of the day, it's dead. The House deadline was Tuesday. So a lot of bills, as I said, a lot of bills have died either Tuesday, Wednesday, or today, and others will die by probably 11 p.m. this evening. Conference committees will then start March 2nd to the 14th. Some of the main bills, Senate Bill 390, I found out was just merged into another bill, so I won't even mention it. It's basically a food and beverage tax. In Indiana, if a municipality wants to have a food and beverage tax, they have to petition the state approves it, then put it in place. The state decided that they didn't like food and beverage taxes for those that they'd already approved, so they were going to put a sunset on all food and beverage taxes. That language was taken out and put in House Bill 1002. And House Bill 1002, as I reported on at the last meeting, was the one that the legislator was attempting to take away business personal property tax revenues that were coming to the local municipalities, counties, schools, libraries, that type of thing. That language has all been stripped out so that the business personal property tax erasure is gone, but they moved in the food and beverage tax erasure. So took out one and put in another. So it's starting that chess match that we always see within the last 2 weeks of each year's session. One I found interesting is taxation on farm equipment. Currently, if you're in the manufacturing business and you purchase equipment, you get a abatement on the investment that you've made in manufacturing equipment. This bill, Senate Bill 119, actually gives a 5-year abatement on the purchase of new farm equipment and new agricultural equipment as well. And so that could have some impact on revenues that are shared by the state down to the local municipalities. Senate Bill 117, the police log information. In the case of a crime or delinquent act against someone under the age of 18, it adds additional restrictions as to what information can be disclosed about that minor. This is good because our police department receives a lot of inquiries from the attorneys representing the assailant, and they're often concerned about what information they're pushing out. This reinforces that if the victim was under age 18, that they do not have to release certain information. A fun one, House Bill 1298. I'm surprised this one's still alive, considering 3 others dealing with alcoholic beverages died. This one allows alcoholic beverage sampling. This will be beer, wine, and spirits at farmers markets within Indiana, as long as the product is created in Indiana. So this one will die probably tonight if it doesn't pass out of the Senate. But this is like a second or third go around in various sessions. One that's kind of hear about in the headlines is the education bill. A group of very active parents are concerned about what the educators can choose to teach or not teach within the school system. Parents are wanting to take back a lot of that responsibility or the right to have their child not be present for that education information, or to actually have that information moved from classroom. So I checked on it, it's still active. I don't know if it will see the light of day today, but that's the one that you seem to see the most information coming out of the EU. So as quickly as they're moving information from one bill to another, others are dying. So the end of today can't come quick enough in some cases.
Right, Kevin, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Kevin here? All right, thank you, Kevin.
For everybody's information, the last meeting, it was noted that Jeffersontown has now been annexed by Clark County.
You're right.
So,
Yeah.
there was some misinformation.
Misinformation.
It was humorous that.
We also are eliminating bridges to get back across to,
Yeah.
right?
Once they got here, we eliminated bridges.
Unnecessary. Well, no, his motion was to eliminate unnecessary bridges. And one of those was the ones that we just built, so that's our problem.
Jack, we get them to Indiana and then we get rid of the bridge.
That's his thought. One-way bridge.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin, you're excused. Thank you. Appreciate it. Item number 9, Aging and Disability Resource Council Advisory Programs update from Brittany Baines and Holly Beck.
Hi, my name is Brittany Baines. I'm the new Aging and Disability Resource Center coordinator here at KIPDA. So I want to give you all a little bit of information about what's going on and some updates about what's going on in the Aging and Disability Resource Center, or the ADRC. As we call it here. So the Aging and Disability Resource Center exists to serve our community and help connect our older adults and seniors to get services for their caregivers and loved ones. And we do this in the ADRC through increasing visibility to those that we serve in the KIPDA region, and also through providing over-the-phone information that they take back and use at their own. So in the ADRC.
You can follow along on page 44 for the included a handout.
So in the Aging and Disability Resource Center, we connect our callers, individuals who walk in through helping them apply for programs, giving them resources and helping them find resources to connect them with what they're needing. We also do referrals and send out referrals and take in referrals from our community partners and agencies. And then we also provide SHIP counseling to individuals who are looking for more information on how to lower drug costs, or just if they're getting to that age where they need some more guidance on what they need to afford to medical. So in the Aging and Disability Resource Center at ADRC here at KIPDA, our unofficial motto is that we like to point our callers and those who walk in to speak with us in the right direction. So we really just trying to get them to point A to point B or wherever they need to be to meet their needs for themselves and for their loved ones. And we do this, we ensure this is happening. So our ADRC staff right now, there's myself and there's 3 other specialists. So we're down 1 specialist right now. So we're having open interviews for that currently, and that job is posted. So all of our ADRC staff are required to be FAIR certified. So that's a national certification through the Alliance of Information and Referrals. And so all staff are required to have that training. And then in addition to that, they have to have 24 hours of continuing education. So 12 of those hours are included in SHIP counseling. So that's the state health insurance program. And then the other 12 hours are anything that's related to elder abuse, awareness, data entry, information and referral, ethics, things like that. And so the Aging and Disability Resource Center, we connect, once again, our callers to the different resources. So these are some of the programs that we connect our callers to. And in your binders, you'll see the new updated handout that we have. The form that you'll have in your binder, that's the form that we send out to callers when they're calling in and they want additional information, or they're wanting to get an update on what's going on with our services. So it explains in more detail. Obviously, when we're talking to them over the phone, they may hear one thing. This is another way to read through it and take some time to digest what they heard when they talk to our specialists. So the National Caregiver Program, we talked to them about those voucher programs for grandparents and grandchildren, for family caregiver. And also we talked to them about the in-home services for home care, helping with keeping our seniors independent in their home and in their community. Once again, SHIP counseling, so helping them save on drug costs, things like that. And then our home and community-based waiver program, another program for people who are birth to death, looking for ability to stay independent in the home and in the community. And if they have Medicaid, they can access those services. And then transportation as well. So the transportation services are provided for individuals 60 years of age or older, and it'll take them to and from their doctor's appointments daily. And so that's provided through local wills. And so what our ADRC staff do. So once again, we provide information and referral. We are the starting point when you're calling into KIPDA. We're literally the people that you will talk to. So just to walk you through a day in the life of the ADRC specialist. And I also started off as an ADRC specialist as well. So I have a lot of experience in on-call day. So you start off, you talk to the on-call specialist. The on-call specialist will talk to you. They'll triage the call. They'll do what is called a level 1 screening. So they'll get a quick overview of what you're needing, what your basic demographic information is, and then get everything down on paper. We'll put it into our system, and then we'll have a specialist follow up with you with more resources if you need that, or if you're just calling in, you need a quick phone call, you want to know the number LG&E, we'll give you that. If you need to get the numbers to Meals on Wheels, we'll give you that. So all of those things happen when you talk to on-call specialists. Typically, on-call specialists will take anywhere from 50 to 60, if not more, on a Monday, pretty heavy phone calls each day. And so you're required to talk to the people on the phone. And then we have 24 hours to return those phone calls, except for on Friday, obviously, we return those on Monday. And then once we do that, we also take referrals from the community. So we have community partners that will make referrals. We'll send out referral packets, and that will include the sheet that you all have. And then it also include a pink sheet, and then the clients can fill that out. Sometimes they don't want our services, and then sometimes they do, so they can take the time to make their own decision about what services they want to get connected with. So our KIPDA, our ADRC staff, we engage the community. So we do that through community outreach and involvement. We have our Aging and Disability Advisory Council that meets every other month. And then we also have community outreach events. So we attend World Fest, we attend the State Fair. We're currently attending an event for Kentucky Derby Festival, and then also local church and community events. We'll attend those as well. We have social media, so we post information about SHIP and other resources that might be helpful. We'll do that through our Facebook and Twitter outlets. And then also we have our KIPDA radio show. So we host that each Friday. One of the social services staff will talk on that show, so you can listen in tomorrow, because I'll be on there. I'll be on there at 12:30, and that's on WLLB. So you can listen.
Take requests.
Yeah, I take requests. You gonna be on the show? During the show, we'll talk about if we can't find a speaker or a special guest that day, then KIPDA staff will just talk about KIPDA services. Tomorrow, hopefully, if the lady comes through, I'll be talking about our initiative for next month, which will be our Go Blue Day. Some more information will come out about that, about polling awareness. And so this is a little bit about some of the things we do. So there we are at some of our outreach events, Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and up in the right hand corner, that's Chantry. She's one of our ADRC specialists. If you have a waiver question, she can help you with waiver services, all of them, but she's a waiver specialist. And then also our fanfare, that'll be coming up this year as well. I've included that handout in there for you. We are seeking fans. So if you would like to pass this information along to someone that you know that would like to donate fans, we have our different levels of sponsorship. So that information is in there for you as well. And then the fanfare will be this year in June on the 11th. So. And then we have our Aging and Disability Resource, or I'm sorry, Aging and Disability Advisory Council. So that is for us to have individuals who represent our community, represent caregivers, represent people that are disabled to advocate, educate, and participate. So Holly and I are co-chairing, co-working on that advisory council. In the past, it was just the ADRC coordinator, but this year we're going to move forward and work on it together. We're really hoping to ramp up the membership on that council. So we're seeking new members. If you know anyone, please let us know. Holly and I will reach out to them. And then also, like I said, co-leadership. Holly and I are working on that together. And then we're going to start our new advisory council advisory day. So like I said earlier, the colon cancer awareness month for March, we're going to do a Go Blue Day on March 9th. We're going to encourage all of our KIPDA staff and our advisory council to wear blue and have some people come in and talk about colon cancer awareness. So we'll be doing that each month to bring awareness to things that are affecting our community.
I have a question just about the advisory council membership. What types of people are on the council? Like, what kind of people are you looking for?
Yeah, so our advisory council is meant to kind of steer our services for the Division of Social Services. So anyone who can represent some of our services. So 60, 65 plus, maybe you're a caregiver, individual with disability, veterans. Kind of our advisory council steers our social services and the programs that we have. So anyone interested in voicing some concerns, interested in voicing some different funding streams, maybe some funding you'd like to see over a different program. Yes.
So it could be somebody who's working for an agency or somebody that's just the general public?
Either one. Okay. We do have a few community agencies and community partners right now. We've got the VA, Jewish Services, Blue Metro. We're always looking for some more community partners as well. And theoretically, we'd like to have all of our counties represented, preferably 2 from each county. Right now, we are struggling with that service and representation just a little bit. So I know Trumbull County, one we're lacking a little bit. I'd love to have some Trumbull County folks that if you think of any.
Yeah, I do. On the fans,
Yes,
Is it just for Louisville, or do you take them out?
so
as
we
far as
take them
programs?
out to the surrounding counties as well.
Like the community action?
Yes. And so that'll be coming, forthcoming in April. We'll have another blast that'll go out and say who we're gonna, how we're gonna distribute those. In Louisville, to be to the neighborhood places, and then in the surrounding counties, community action. And then we're also partnering with Louisville Metro for that as well. And just signed, actually approved yesterday that they would be our sponsor. And yes, and we already have, we already have plans over with help of Jessica Elkin. She helped me try them in yesterday. So we did get some bands donated as of yesterday. So we started off, I know this is super early to start talking about bands. However, myself and the young lady from Louisville Metro, she and I are both stepping into these roles from the people that we worked under. So we're kind of, we have this little, we gotta be better than they did kind of thing. So it's kind of a little competition. So we started off a little bit earlier. Hopefully we'll meet their numbers and afford the cost. Any other questions?
I would just say that your radio show. Where does it go out to?
So it's Conversations with KIPDA. It's on WLLB or 1350. And so it's AM. And then it goes from 12:30 to 1:30 on Fridays. And so it's broadcast throughout wherever you can pick it up. It's mostly just
So I would just recommend my executive assistant. She's working with the chief's office, senior abuse. That abuse is what you were physical abuse, but it's taking advantage of seniors. They have gone ballistics since pandemic. I mean, from 300 cases to 3,000-4,000 cases. The number one case is people calling. That they use. That's taking advantage of seniors. They will answer something. You may be somebody come along and go beyond social, but be something that the seniors.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate good report. All right, number 10, cleaner water programs, Justin Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, board. Just a little update on the Cleaner Water Grants Program that was rolled out last summer. And we got all of our projects together for all the counties last summer. We're working with KIA, and as of right now, the Community Economic Development Division, we're starting on the e-clearinghouse submissions for the projects that we have been procured to administer for them for that. The Kentucky Infrastructure Authority is waiting on their legal counsel right now, currently to finish up reviewing the conditional commitment letters, which are slated to go out sometime, hopefully in the next couple weeks in March. We had a meeting January 20th with them, and it's been kind of prolonged because their legal counsel is reviewing those. But hopefully, all the systems that have been allocated funds to the Cleaner Water Grant Program will be able to get those conditional commitment letters the first or second week of March. We're moving forward with that process. After each system signs and returns their conditional commitment letter and submits their e-clearinghouse application for their respective projects, they're going to need to respond to all the cross-cutting agencies that have any comments or questions in that e-clearinghouse review. Usually there's an environmental review process. We're not going to have to follow the NEPA environmental review process as we normally would with projects to that nature, but we are going to have to make sure that if there are any questions or comments by any cross-cutting agencies, that those get resolved before moving forward with the bidding process and construction. After the funding is dispersed for the projects that have been awarded funds to each county's allocation, KIA will then begin focusing on awarding funds through the supplemental pot of funding that is also available through this. And it is my understanding currently that the majority of the supplemental funds will be going to projects that have received cleaner water grant funding already. That's just going to be if the material cost, was increased, and if there's any other issues that are keeping those projects from moving forward, there's going to be money to help fund those to keep them on track. We have a few systems that have already assisted in applying for additional funding through that supplemental pot of funding, the Cleaner Water Grants Program. The majority of those are with Louisville Water and Louisville MSD, but there are some others and other surrounding counties that are also going to be applying for the supplemental pot. Lastly, the funds for projects with consent decrees are also going to be receiving those funds through that pot of consent decree funding. Louisville MSD was the only system in our KIPDA region that qualified to receive funding through that Cleaner Water Grants Program. consent decree pot of funds, just because they were one of the only ones that had a consent decree. They're gonna be applied for $5 million for them, for their patties growing, flood pumping station project. But I look forward to working with all of you all, your cities, and definitely with the judges and the systems to get those disseminated, working with environmental, and then after that, hopefully going to bid here early this summer to get those cleaner water grant projects out the door. So that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. We've got an economic development thing coming up here soon with the governor and economic development cabinet. Ryan Lloyd, discuss that.
I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm pretty new to the work as the grants administrator and planner in the community economic development division. And since I've been here, I've been working on this request from the state's cabinet for economic development. I'm just gonna give you some updates on that.
I think you speak a little bit louder just so we can make sure that they pick us up on the screen.
Yeah, sure. All right, so yeah, the name for this project that has been requested is the Site Identification and Development Program. I'm going to give you all a quick broad overview of some of the details on that project. Everybody is familiar with this. So these are presenters that are going to be presenting on high-profile sites or high-priority sites in each of their counties. We've got 5 folks presenting from across our ad districts. The scope of this project is essentially that there's a potential $250 million that is ready to be distributed to help get potential commercial and industrial sites around the state build or shovel ready. So these funds are going towards things like site prep, infrastructure improvements such as wastewater, water systems, electric, broadband, all of those sorts of things, environmental remediation, and then any other site assembly needs. And the purpose of the project overall is to kind of further incentivize development by lowering some of the upfront costs for developers to these sites. So the state's request was sort of twofold. On our end, I've been tasked with updating the Zoom prospector database, which is, some of you may be familiar with that, some of y'all may not. Basically, it's essentially a state-run real estate database that contains a really comprehensive data set on these sites. So it contains the location of the site, lease terms, and then all kinds of data on access to transportation, wastewater, the capacity of those systems, that sort of thing. And then if there's buildings on site, it also contains pretty comprehensive details on those buildings as well. So I have been updating that system since about January 20th. And then the second part of the project is actually a presentation that will be taking place on March 3rd in Frankfurt. That will be to the state's cabinet for economic development as well as the governor. And those folks from our ad district will all be presenting one site within their county that they feel would be worthy of receiving some of this funding. So as far as my updates go, the thing that I've been working on mostly is identifying whether these sites are active or inactive. So within Zoom Prospector, they've been sites as either active, which are essentially on the market for sale, or inactive or off the market. So some of you may have had the pleasure of being bothered by me over the last few weeks about these sorts of things, calling about different properties. A lot of times the folks in our ads who work in economic development have far greater knowledge of these types of things than I do. So I've been kind of reaching out to some of them to get information on this, as well as cross-checking what's listed in Zoom Prospector with various real estate databases like Kentucky Commercial Real Estate and Remax, any kind of like commercial real estate database that's available online. So this is kind of a broad overview of the first round of updates that I did. After I had updated most of the active and inactive statuses, I kind of moved on to some of the finer details within the sites. Since this project was kind of focused on potential infrastructure and things that could be done to get sites shovel or build ready, I decided to move on and do transportation and infrastructure details. So for this, I got a lot of data and some maps from Zach that helped me out with that process. So this was filling in information on the sites, such as what their proximity to these systems were, what the capacity of water and wastewater systems was, that sort of thing. Some of the updates that I'll be trying to make going forward will be kind of pretty heavily focused on natural gas and electrical infrastructure, since I was lacking some of this data. So I've been in talks with the National Pipeline Mapping System and LG&E to try and source some data to further flesh out the data that's already in there.
Are you finding that natural gas is in short supply in these areas? Because I've got a problem in Shelby County.
I would say that natural gas seems to be one that a lot of folks that I talk to seem to think that it's in short supply and sort of like somewhat unattainable. A lot of the cost estimates that folks have been doing for their presentations, it seems to be something that is usually really expensive to get extended. They might be like located pretty far from a line. And yeah, so I would say that it seems in pretty short supply. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And then, yeah, just two other points about my updates. I've received a lot of additional support from folks, ED specialists, counties, engineers, other experts. Some of you all helped me out directly as well. And then another important note, Jefferson County and Louisville Metro, they will be updating their own Zoom prospector database because right now I'm the only person at KIPDA working on this. Louisville Metro has an incredibly high volume of sites, but they also luckily have the manpower to kind of handle that higher volume. So they are updating their own sites for their county separately and tracking those changes and kind of keeping me informed for the purposes of this project. And then part of the project is also sort of estimating completion. This is a little bit of a judgment call because the data set from Zoom Prospector is really huge. But I estimate it at somewhere between 60 and 65% right now for rural counties. I don't really have a specific date for completion as the changes are sort of ongoing and still kind of like working out an estimated date for that. And then I still have a couple major things to do as far as the updates go. So I want to continue updating that infrastructure, especially on gas and electric, as I mentioned. And then I'm also still receiving additional sites from some folks. So I received a file from Spencer County that contains some sites that I've yet to get through. So things like that that you all can provide me with and really help me update this database. If you all know sites in your counties that might be things that wouldn't be in Zoom Prospector, just like check on it. That's something that I can help out with. And then lastly, I'm just going to run really briefly through what the actual presentation on March 3rd will look like. So each representative from our counties will have a slide that looks something like this. This is clearly not a real site, but it will be like kind of the layout of what it will look like. It'll give a Google Earth overview satellite image of the site. There's also a link in the bottom right corner that will take the presentation directly to kind of like an aerial 360 view of the site. It contains some critical information like access to Riverport, truck networks, and the airport. And then on the second slide, it just follows up with some more details on the site. You know, location highlights why the site is beneficial for this type of development. If there's been any previous investments or due diligence studies done. And then the last section, which is current upgrades needed, which is what the site needs to be shovel or build ready and a rough estimated cost.
You put these all together, work with each of the 5 people listed on the earlier slide. This data line up.
Yes, yeah, I actually just submitted the final product earlier this morning. So yeah, I've been in contact with all those folks, just getting materials for them.
And then you have to give them the economic development, Kevin. who's gonna show them.
Oh, yeah, so everybody will be meeting in Frankfurt on March 3rd. I'll be kind of giving a more brief version of what I explained to you about what I've been doing. And then after that, all of the folks from the county will be presenting their sites.
You have a contact person, each site, somebody's viewing this.
A contact person for each individual site. Yeah, so each site will have a contact person that is either the agent or the person that the site is listed with, or the person working in economic development. Yeah, I can likely get that. Yeah, sometimes I'm still also updating some of the contact information for all the sites. But yeah, in most cases, we can get all of that information.
The driver behind this was obviously the Ford announcement with the battery plant being located down in Glendale. So that site was purchased by the state 20+ years ago and had everything ready, build ready, shovel ready. So the governor, thinking ancillary businesses are going to be coming, wanted to try to get additional sites. So with the ARPA funding, had the $250 million that he had allocated the governor's budget for it. So they initially engaged with the area development districts in December about doing this project. And Ryan came in on January, so he has done a fantastic job because he just got thrown to the wolves, because this has been one of those situations where we've been building a plane while it's been in the air because everything's continued to change. But next week, Judge Vogel's going to attend and give the introduction before the governor of the ED cabinet. And then as Ryan showed, then it'll go through the segue of each economic development folks, which includes Judge Brent. So it's a good opportunity. It gives the ads back to us actually trying to be involved in planning. At the ED cabinet, I think their GIS has 2 or 3 staff members, so they just don't have the capacity to keep that Zoom prospector updated. So this has been an effort for that information just to get as updated as possible.
I commend you because it just makes 500 to 600 companies either expand or come really the next.
Absolutely.
Here is MSA, whether it's on that one-way bridge in Indiana or it's the rest of it. Well, I'm more Indiana. So I'm on the one-way bridge.
Thank you, Ryan.
Will you come with me?
Next item on the agenda here is legislative report.
Today marks the 35th day of a 60-day consecutive legislative session. 557 House bills and 208 Senate bills have been filed today. We are approaching the deadline for new legislation to be filed with the March 1st deadline for the House and March 4th deadline for the Senate. A bill that would provide a significant boost to our community and economic development division and the services for our communities. House Bill 482 was fast tracked through the House last week, where it was approved unanimously on February 7th. And has been sent to the Senate, where it's been assigned to 8R. The legislation would codify the Joint Funding Administration formula, eliminating potential misinterpretation. That was the issue that landed us in that, let's see how diplomatic we say, the disagreement with the prior administration's Department for Local Government with how we received our funding through the JFA. Additionally, the legislation includes the first increase in funding to the Joint Funding Administration since we believe the 1980s. So this infusion of funding would allow us to hire additional staff to meet the ever-increasing needs of our region. House Bill 212 passed the House and Senate unanimously and was delivered to the governor on February 17th. The legislation adjusts the filing deadline by requiring fiscal courts to initiate reapportionment proceedings in May of 2023 instead of 2022. An emergency clause was attached to the bill and will put the legislation into effect immediately after it is signed into law. I know Mayor Deere can speak to this because it was a high priority for KLC as well as KCO. House Bill 475, a constitutional amendment, would allow the General Assembly to consider comprehensive local revenue reforms to expand and modernize the revenue options available to local governments. That passed the House yesterday afternoon, and should the bill be signed into law, it will be placed on the November ballot for voters to consider. And if approved, the General Assembly could begin to pass a framework next session. House Bill 453 passed last week in the House and is now in the Senate for consideration. The legislation provides local governments the same protection currently afforded to the state by allowing committee or governing body to go into a closed session when selecting a successful bidder for a local contract. The measure further clarifies rules for video teleconference meetings that many public agencies have used during the COVID-19 pandemic. The bill requires notifying the public and local media in advance of the video teleconference meeting. The meeting has a physical location. Local government officials must provide information about where it is and disclose any location where 2 or more members will attend the video teleconference together. Officials on the teleconference must leave their video camera on for the entire time the group discusses business. The governor signed an executive order that mirrored the language of Senate Joint Resolution 79. The executive order relieves Kentuckians from inflated vehicle taxes driven by artificial pandemic-related inflation. Those that have already paid will be issued a refund. How to get that refund will be distributed here in the near future. Senate Bill 194 and its adopted committee substitute was approved in Senate A&R this morning. The legislation to address record inflation currently at 7.5% would give state income tax rebate up to $500 to individual tax filers and up to $1,000 tax rebate to joint filers based on last year's tax filing. The bill will now move to the Senate floor for consideration. And finally, one to watch is Senate Joint Resolution 150 was filed last Friday and has since passed committee and received 2 readings on the Senate floor. The resolution would end the nearly 2-year state of emergency with the pandemic and any regulations that rely on the state of emergency. Do you have anything you would like to add?
Thanks, Jerry. You know, most of my time is applying for another job. So hopefully I'll find out in 10 months if I get that job or not. It's the longest application process I've ever seen. But there's a couple bills that may be of note, but not transportation driven, but on the ambulance service, there was a bill that was put out in Boyd County that would eliminate 2/3 of all ambulance service in Jefferson County because it would take away the ability to them to charge extra 10 cents if a person protested because they're paying double taxation. It was unintended consequences that Senator Demas put out when he had the bill, Senate Bill 177, that has been now put in for review later. There's another bill out there on ambulance service that House Representative Ken Fleming put out that has the consequences that you have to transport from one hospital to another during a certain time frame. That was done in the thought process that the hospitals don't want people just sitting there, they want to open up their bed. The problem is the people that provide the services, the fire and the EMTs, have to go to where the emergency is first, not necessarily just because the hospitals don't transport. So that will probably die. House Bill 314 was a Jason Demas bill. We could have more cities if this thing's passed in this area. 67C in metro area. May have Lake Forest, Fairdale, West End, or somebody else home city. It has other consequences in there, limiting my term of employment, possibly in the next job to only 2 terms rather than 3, and other things they would have 67C for metro. But as we talked about before, whether it's the road fund, which is somewhat still alive, it would be the process of trying to get it through one more time, but also that he wants to put out the TIF. And as we went through before, the TIF is where you could form your own TIF on road projects. And that's back to Brian's economic development process. So if you were doing that economic development in that area, you could possibly put a TIF on those businesses through occupational tax or property and be able to collect the funds to sunset later once that road is built or infrastructure is built in the future date. As also mentioned there, when I was talking to the speaker, there is additional funds that will be in for road money. I know there's 25 million of that in cities. Counties will have all additional funds too, so we might want to watch for that to make sure those funds are appropriately brought to us, which many times they aren't as much given to our ad district as they are others. Now, these aren't monies that will be coming through grants. These are monies that will be coming through other areas like road funds and stuff like that. That's a short version, since I have been working on other ones.
All right, I'm gonna add one that nobody else brought up here yet, just maybe the county judge here might be interested in, and that is there's a bill in the House to change the way library boards are appointed right now. Yeah, we can appoint most people to whomever we want, but the library sends you 2 names of people they like to recommend, and you're supposed to pick from those 2 names. I've fought with my library board several times told them I wasn't taking either one, and here's somebody I want to come back as a recommendation in the next round. They want to get, somebody's got a bill in there to get rid of that and just have libraries appointed the same way all other special taxing district boards are appointed. I think it'd be fine. I mean, I'm getting along with my library board right now, but I didn't in the past, and you know, they're an independent, you know, they don't, they're in the taxing district, just like you know, the health board and other people that you can appoint people to, so. You know, huh?
Extension boards.
Yeah,
They represent
right,
our people.
right, yeah, so we, like, they need to be just like every other special purpose government entity, as far as how those boards are accumulated. Because they have a tendency to reappoint
They're
people. Well, yeah, they can only serve 2 terms, but they always pick somebody who thinks just like them. You know, and in the last term, I got left, one lady didn't like me, got her behind, and all of a sudden her daughter shows up as one of the, you know, replacements for her. Well, you know, it's actually turned out all right, but it might have blown up my face. Anyway, I can't tell you what that number is. Just saw it on the KIPDA website last week. Okay,
We've got a bad alcohol bill also, Jerry, you're better informed on that, but this could really hurt anybody that's got alcohol in storage.
Right.
And what they're wanting to do, they say, and to help a little bit, then when we meet tomorrow, some of the dialogue we've had, they said they're gonna make us whole. And I'll get there, see them make us whole on anything. And they're talking about doing away with what I'm gonna say franchise or ad valorem tax for communities to store barrels. In Jefferson County, there's many things being driven basically by KDA, Brown Foreman, folks like that, where there's relatively no alcohol stored. But when you have counties like Shelby, which is getting ready to do a massive expansion, distilled spirits and storage, Bullitt, Nelson, Woodford, especially Marion County and Franklin counties, it's literally a real punch in the gut. When you look at our county budget, all these dollars go straight into the county because none of these distilleries have their alcohol stored in the cities. And it's a revenue that comes straight into the county coffers. In our case, on $22 million worth of receipts, it's $3.5 million. And then when you bounce into the other communities like Nelson County, it's $8.5 million. I don't know if Dan has the number, but when you bounce down into Marion County in particular, it's $6.5 million on a population of 19,000 residents that they take care of. So the speaker wants it. It's quite the quagmire for us. And I'll be quite candid with you. I know how Dan feels, and state always makes promises, but we've shorted about 1.2 million last year. 800,000 are jailed, another 250,000 of unfunded mandates training to EMS and to the police departments, so our sheriff's department. So we're running on the skin of our teeth as it is to provide services in our communities as well. The distilleries, when you have millions of barrels under roof, they transport them all the time. We guarantee funding back to folks to fix the roads, the tune of $200,000 to $300,000 left. So something that we can't. There's opportunities there for maybe an improvement, but I haven't seen them yet make us whole on any type of tax revenue. And Dan, Mr. Vogel, I'm sure you've been in the same bucket before, but the speaker was quite candid that they think it's an unfair tax. Well, this ink pen that I have right here is taxed incredibly great as well. It's consumption tax. In the first 2 years, the product is not taxed at all because it is not a Kentucky bourbon. The first 2 years, there's no tax on the alcohol. So this is where we stand at meeting tomorrow. Dan, Wells, Daughtry, Gay, and Judge Watts as well. So we'll see how it shakes out. We're doing our best with it. Kentucky Judges Association is helping us. Don't know how Keiko is going to respond yet.
What's that bill number?
Doesn't have a bill number exactly yet. And in the world I came from, when you go talk to the speaker, you take a representative with you to, and I've been through 3 speakers now. You go chat with them. I won't ever get a chance to see the bill until, or any language with it, until it shows up on the floor. So this it's truly going to happen. It's sponsored by McCoy down in Nelson County. And the Kentucky Distillers Association.
Used to be big tobacco, it's now big alcohol.
Absolutely.
Next week, challenge.
So this is where we're at. And have further discussions tomorrow at noon. Invite them to join the conversation.
So they want to eliminate the tax on this.
Absolutely.
And how much is that tax now?
Well, right now in our community, to help you a little bit, it's what we call the franchise tax, or it's called that. It's $3.5 million, of which 2.6 million goes to the school system. The other million comes directly back into Bull County. 350,000 for roads, another 360,000 for fire department that only has a $400,000 budget, which is literally across the street from the largest distilleries in the world. So when all that goes away, naturally goes back to the library extension, whether it's taxes that you have as well. But it solely comes back to the county. It's literally none of that except for the metro government, in both global and however the government is formed, pay the county, whatever acquisition. Those are the only 2 communities that we feel were not affected because of the setup.
Like it's not built back.
It is. And he's been a big part of all these meetings that we've had. It is not built back. So.
Open up a war because it can always be a tourism tax on all of these back or bourbon trail tickets. So,
yeah.
So, you know, they haven't thought this out. They're going to hit us in our pocket.
Right.
We have to figure out.
We're going to come back at bourbon and say, okay, there's a tax on every visitor you're bringing into that facility in my county.
Right, or an alcohol tax as well. By the way, I mean, I didn't see a limit on any type of, but I'm gonna say tax back on serve for the drink, and they're all in the county. I mean, dang, one of them in the city, so.
I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I think it's going to be solved in the Senate.
Yeah. That's what I'm counting on.
Okay, well, we want to move on here to personnel. Shall we see some?
Sure. We had one hire, that's Ada Drake, who we hired as a Michelle waiver, Medicaid waiver case manager and social services. She started February 14th. She earned a bachelor's degree in justice and public safety from Sullivan and a master's degree in social work from First Approval. She most recently worked as a community transition case manager at New Vista Gardens. We had one promotion. I can't remember if I said this in our last meeting or not, but Zach Herzog, who's over here in the corner of that. He has been promoted. He's now our GIS department manager in the Division of Transportation. That was effective January 31st. We had one retirement. Missy Bennett retired January 31st as the national billing representative. She was with KIPDA for 27 years of service. And as Jared said earlier, Lynn will be, her last day will be on Monday. And I believe almost 11 years or 11 years, not quite 11 years, 10.5, yeah. We have the following position vacancies, budget contracts administration coordinator, which is Lynn's position. We've also, we've had a hard time trying to attract the right candidate for this position. If you know anybody, we've kind of changed the title to the Finance and Contracts Administrator, just to try to get more candidates. Our transition planner, we actually hired a level 3 planner. We made that offer last week and he accepted, so they'll be coming in March. ADRC specialist in the Division of Social Services. Brittany talked about that position earlier. GIS specialist, working with Zach, filling his position. We have made that offer and are waiting to see if this candidate accepts. Economic resiliency intern in our CED division, and alternative transportation customer service coordinator in the Division of Transportation. These job descriptions can be found on our website, KIPDA.org. Right now, we currently have 81 full-time and 2 part-time permanent employees. That concludes my report. Action is requested to accept this report.
Motion to approve, Kelly's report. All right, any discussion? In favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Number 15, mid-year budget revision. Tom.
Thank you. On page 52 starts the mid-year budget revision information. And the first page is the proposed revision. And the biggest part of the change relates to we added carryover money that is available once we've got the audit settled. And we know how much money is available to carry over, but that revenue wasn't included. And then we got some new revenue sources during the year that increased our funding. And then we had some changes in salary costs due to the fact that we had some vacancies. We had within transportation, we had 3 of the higher paid positions within transportation retired as of the middle of the year, and had to be budgeted for the full year because those people have been in that position for so long. Their salaries have been built up and replacements lower salary. We've had some vacancies that we haven't filled, so those are the big reasons for the changes. The salaries here, last year we started giving our salary increases as of January 1st. So we had a better feel for what the funding was going to be. And we built the original budget anticipating this rate. And we've got built into this budget a 2% annual increase with a minimum increase of $750. We would love to be able to do more of an increase, but we didn't know what could be sustained. We know that our costs this year are down because of COVID. We're not doing face-to-face calls on a lot of our clients.
Good job, Brian.
And so we've got.
Yeah, your first time is always more nerve-wracking than the next. No, you did good. I did not even notice that you were.
Hayden, there you go.
So we felt that it would be prudent to go with the 2% because we just don't know what the future's going to hold. This coming year, our retirement expense is not going to actually go down a little bit. There's the potential for an increase of 12% of the rate. It's us, but legislation allows for that, and that would be 3% of salaries would have to go to retirement expense to start that back up. So that's why we proposed this amount of salary adjustment, 2%. We'd love to do more, but we don't know if it's sustainable. Once the dust settles on it, we'll get back to normal.
We did 2% now. We take another look at this in 6 months.
Yeah, we love.
The cost of living is, I think, exceeded 2%. Social Security is up, everything. But I understand, where you are. You look at mid-year or some point in the future.
Judge, I agree with you. I think we're good. as soon as, if you need us, come back as soon as you need, because there's sustainability of keeping the great people you have and increase because of the inflation that's going to be hitting us both now and because of the war and to start this morning.
And you might look at this page and you'll see that at the bottom, we're projecting significant balances. So you can't, you're not comfortable with the higher rates. These balances are based on, we've got several of our funding sources that are multiple year funding sources. And we've shown those revenues that are available. And many of those will be needed and available to carry over into the next year. The biggest part of the surplus relates to our ECC program, our rideshare program. We've got $1.9 million in surplus in that program because those are 2 year, every year we get a 2-year contract, and we've carried over almost all of last year's funds into this year, and because of the reduction in ridership, we haven't replaced vans. That's always been a big part of our spending. We haven't done that. We've reduced staff there because we already had the money to do it. We didn't think it was responsible to just have staff there that didn't have to work. So we reduced the cost there. So it's been crazy. We've had a lot of money thrown at us to do project activity, but some of that's going to carry over within the CBD. Some of the revenue that is being reflected are contracts where the work's not going to really start till the end of the year. So a lot of that money is going to carry over with the ARPA money. That's a year source of funds. So if you look at that and you're saying, oh my God, this money, what's going on? But each division's got money that, except the rideshare program, which is just going to be hard to spend that money.
What's the dollar amount of 2% increase?
Each percent would be a $43,000 cost in salary, and then just the Social Security cost in our current retirement rate would be another 34%, so it'd be another $15,000. So each percent would be about $58,000, $59,000 for each percent.
Now, what is our fiscal year? January?
So it's July 1st.
July 1st, but is this, you mentioned you wanted to give raise, you decided to give raise in January. Are you proposing this to be retroactive?
Yeah, be retroactive January 1st.
Take a look at it.
So if we did 4%, you're looking at about $120,000.
Oh,
If we can't find $120,000 somewhere, we got problems. I can't see giving folks less than 4% raise right now. I've been struggling with a $28 million budget. I found 4%. We got 7.5% inflation going here, and we're not even giving our folks half. They'll walk. It's that simple. This board has an obligation to take care of our workers.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, throw it back to the management here as to what you think. If you think that's doable, or do you think it's pushing?
I would be pushing them to see what we can do.
Do we pull those numbers and convene the executive committee to see what it looks like after?
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, two pretty paltry. I don't know if Judge Riley's on here anymore, but my daughter's a teacher in Spencer County. Last year she got a 1% raise. You know, boy, I thought that was pathetic. You know, I mean, not even pathetic. I can't think of the word. But I guess it didn't have the money to go around. So, you know, that's what they gave.
And I'm going to ditto Judge Ison's comments. If you don't, we've done that. We managed to find the funding on.
There is no crueler tax than inflation.
Yeah, right.
I make a motion for Jared suggested that he, him and Tom review the numbers and come back and go into executive session to talk about where we move.
Second. All right. All in favor, please say aye. All right, Jared, you want to go forward? You finished, or?
Yes.
All right, we'll go forward with the governmental.
The intergovernmentals can be taken together, A through G, the seven projects that have been submitted for comment, nothing has been received, so they can be taken together.
All right, second. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Jared's your final report.
Just quickly, the Kentucky Council of Area Development Districts held their legislative breakfast and quarterly board meeting at Capitol Annex on February 10th. There was a good turnout to the breakfast, and Speaker Osborne and Senate President Stivers spoke at the KCADD board meeting. And I would just like to thank Judge Summers for representing KIPDA at both events, and also want to welcome Stacy Rockaway for coming today. So if you have anything you'd like to share, some comments. Well, thank you. And again, to reiterate, it's great seeing this many people. It's the best turnout we've had since prior to the pandemic. So thank you all for coming. Meetings for next month, the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee will meet at 1 p.m. on March 9th. The Transportation Policy Committee will then meet on March 24th at 12:30, and the March KIPDA Board of Directors will meet immediately following at 2. And for the Executive Committee, Tom and I, once we have the numbers ready, we'll convene that meeting. And this concludes my report.
All right, motion to accept.
So move.
Second, all right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, at that point, is there anyone else here who has anything you'd like to bring up at today's meeting, other business?
Is it Keith Griffey's birthday today?
Yes.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
We're not counting.
A little birdie online told us.
Oh, good. Thank you. Have you got it filling out? All right, motion adjourned.
Good luck to you.